Yiannis Kanellopoulos, founder and CEO at Code for Thought. Yiannis is an active member of the startup community and one of the few AI experts in Greece with more than 17 years of experience. Oh my God, that's so amazing. Back in 2018, he founded Code for Thought, one of the first startups to offer AI testing and auditing in AI consulting services in the country. Yiannis also is a strong supporter of OpenConf year after year, and thank you very much about that. He will be talking about, in AI, we need to trust, not there yet. Yiannis, welcome to stage.
Thank you.
Welcome, Yiannis.
Thank you
The floor
very
is
much.
yours.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Yiannis Kanellopoulos, and I work for Code for Thought. Today, I will try to elaborate on this subject, and I hope you bear with me, and that everyone is more energized now after the coffee break. And I also will try to pick from where Martina and the previous speakers left regarding the AI, discussion over AI, trustworthiness, quality, ethics, and so on. First of all, a little bit about Code for Thought, because it's quite relevant to our presentation. I mean, at Code for Thought, we are very good in analyzing the quality of AI systems, and in software systems in general. It can be a typical software system as we know it. It can be an AI system. And what we try to do is to ensure that the technology that organizations build can be trusted, and there is some thought behind it and good design. Now, I will as a spoiler, I will show, why we are not there yet in trusting AI systems. So you heard from Martina a very nice introduction of me, but let's see also what ChatGPT can say about Yiannis Kanellopoulos, the CEO of Code for Thought. So all in all, if you work for National Bank of Greece or Eurobank, probably we have been colleagues, because I used to work there as a Chief Technology Officer and Head of Technology and Operations, respectively. So in the past, it seems that I was having a C-level position in one bank and a level below C-level in the other. A very nice resume, but nevertheless not true. So one thing we can surely say is that we have a long way before we can be able to trust AI, but more soon. So one thing that I was trying to figure out today is how you can talk about trustworthiness, quality of AI in a mixed audience, an audience which includes software engineers or data scientists or machine learning engineers. So I try to find the common denominator between, let's say, the traditional software systems and the AI systems, which is all of them is software. So there is this very, sorry about. Oops. Yeah, there is Joanna Bryson, who's a very professor I'm following on social media, and she's a professor of ethics and technology. And for her, it's not like we have to discuss about how to govern AI. The discussion should be how we govern the manufacturing, the implementation of AI systems. Of course, the main difference between a traditional software system and an AI system is that the latter is utilizing way more data. And data, as Meredith Broussard says in her book, Artificial Intelligence, is socially constructed. This means that data actually, there is essence behind them. It's not just simple measurements and KPIs. It's the data that the systems and machines collect reflect the way we live, our buying habits, what we like to eat, how we drive, how we run, how fast we run, how often we run. So as you can see, there is lots of, there is some soul behind the data that machines utilize. And if we also factor in the Conway's law, which suggests that the organizations who design and build software systems are constrained by their own communication structures and their own culture. So if, let's say, so the culture of the organization directly influences the quality or the design behind a system. So we understand that we have a very interesting mix of code, software, data, and the culture and the ethics of the organization that compiles all them in order to build the system. So I will try then to elaborate with this framework, let's say, in mind, and take you through to the next 25 minutes or so. Let's start with the legislations, which is, if we want to see what humanity is trying to do right now in order to govern and regulate AI, this is the main aspect. This is from where we start, because it sets the big picture the big picture, sorry, that that all the work that we as engineers do belongs to, let's say, or is part of it. And I like this phrase here, because legislation is the art of compromise, or as I'd like to say myself, a very good negotiation leaves everyone partially satisfied or partially happy. So before I start, there is an interesting fact about Greece. Actually, Greece is the second European country that has passed a law on how to legislate AI systems. The first country is Spain. So, but what it makes it more interesting is that this is the name of the law. It's the law 4961/2022. Is that there is no definition of what an AI system is. So we voted that we're going to regulate AI systems, but yet we haven't defined what an AI system is. So in the next couple of slides, I will try to give some definitions, so we are a little bit more aligned. And the most, let's say, prevalent definition right now is the one given by OECD, the Organization of Economic Collaboration and Development. And oh, that's the old version of my presentation. Anyway, the interesting things here is that the artificial intelligence system, it defines it as a machine-based system. In the past, the EU AI Act, the primary definition was talking only about software system. So in order to include also robots and UAVs and so on. And the second very important thing is that the objectives that this machine-based system will utilize will be defined by us, the humans. We're not talking about systems that the objectives will be defined automatically or anything like that. So, this definition by OECD forms the basis for the EU AI Act, which is the legislation that we as European Union right now are negotiating and is expected to pass until the end of this year. Also, it defines the type of decisions that an AI system can make, which is predictions, recommendations, or decisions. And also, it defines seven different use cases that we can see here for an AI system. So if we go through this, the main, let's say, what this picture says actually is that AI systems are everywhere in our daily lives, and that we actually interact with them either in matters of seconds. So if I want to open my iPhone, then there is this face ID that recognizes my face and opens. Or let's say we can spend hours with them. So I guess that there are several people here who spend hours talking to ChatGPT or BART or any other LLM just for fun. We can see that AI systems are used in banking, like credit risk systems. The AlphaGo, which is for games also. We all use, streaming services such as Netflix or Amazon Prime or Spotify or Apple Music, and all those recommendations that comes from these applications behind them are AI systems. So nevertheless, AI is already here. We interact with it, and sometimes we don't even realize it, which is very important, and we will also show later on why it is important. So back in the days, like around 2016, between 2016 and 2019, the maturity of AI governance globally was this. So we had, let's say, the Pope praying that robots and AI will continue to serve humanity. But thankfully, we have progressed since then, And nowadays, we have, let's say, a plethora of regulations, standards, and frameworks that are being discussed or passed. Here I mentioned EU AI Act, the California law, the definitions of AI according to NIST AI risk management framework, and so on. The most important things here, which I like to mention specifically, is the levels of autonomy. So most of the legislations are trying to be as open as possible, defining varying levels of autonomy, so from the full autonomous or the let's say the less autonomous system. And this is very important. Why? Because in legislations like GDPR, which we all know here, I guess, who doesn't know GDPR? Okay. There were some loopholes on the autonomy of a given system that somebody could use it as a loophole in order to not to comply in certain things. So let's say if an organization is using an automated system according to GDPR, but the result is given to a human being, and that human being decides over the actual decision, then this automated system is not subject to audit, or it's not subject to certain things that the GDPR was suggesting, which actually means that the new legislations are also trying to cater for this. And even if, let's say, a decision is not made autonomously by a system, but there is also a human being in the loop for the decision, this means that still the system will be subject for auditing and for scrutiny. Also, the role of humans in most of the legislations, unfortunately not from the EU AI Act, has been clearly defined as the ones responsible for providing the data to the system and defining the objectives of that system. There is a nice thing about the EU AI Act about the role of data, which I will mention just right now. So if you see here, here we try to these are the three, let's say, most interesting regulations right now that are being passed, or not interesting, but these are, let's say, the most, the closest and the ones that are affecting most Greece and Europe, which is the EU AI Act. Here what we see is that there is a series of AI requirements, the requirement of safety, of, let's say, transparency or explainability, the requirement of fairness, of privacy, of human redress, which are expressed in different ways in each legislation, but nevertheless, all of them are being mentioned or dictated there. The main difference between the EU AI Act and the US Bill of Rights or the UK AI regulation is that the EU AI Act is the only risk-based approach. So, and the other two are more innovation-based approach. So if I have a model which is working in the banking sector, it's considered a high risk according to the EU AI Act, so it needs to pass from scrutiny. What the US and the UK say is that if that same model is being used in credit rating in, I don't know, Fortnite to see the creditworthiness of a player on how much money they will get, then it can avoid the scrutiny and the auditing. So we can say that the EU AI Act is a bit stricter than the other two. And also it's the only one who defines the need for high quality data. So instead of putting the responsibility to the human being for the data they provide, they use it as an AI requirement, as a requirement for the system, that the system needs to utilize high quality data in the training and the testing phase. Yeah, in elaborating a little bit about the EU AI Act, because it's most relevant for us, there are 4 risk categories. This is the category of unacceptable risk, which is like social credit scoring, like the applications we see in China. This is forbidden in Europe. Also, real-time facial recognition in the streets, let's say, or from policing reasons or for whatever, is forbidden. There needs to be a special permit for police to use this kind of software, but in Europe it's forbidden. For instance, in the US, And in the UK, there is this type of software. Now, in the high risk, there are several categories. It's the systems that are used for education, the systems in justice. So if I want to predict, let's say, how if somebody who gets out of the prison will commit a crime again or not. So these kind of systems, or also credit risk systems in bank, or insurance domain. Very recently, the insurance domain has been defined or characterized as high-risk domain from the EU AI Act. So all these kind of systems, they are considered high risk, and a thorough conformity assessment needs to take place. This kind, we will tell a little bit more about what types of tests we can do there, but a typical conformity assessment starts by, let's say, creating an inventory of AI systems of the type of problem they solve, the use case they're being utilized, the type of data they utilized, and then a series of questions about how those data was found and was processed. And also it can go all the way down on testing the actual system. There is also the limited risk category, which is chatbots and all these, let's say, all these systems that are used mostly for interaction with people from the banks or from call centers. In this category, what the EU AI Act suggests is the requirement of transparency, which actually means that, let's say, the organization utilizing the system needs to inform the user that they are not interacting with a human being, but instead they're interacting with a machine, with an AI system. And in the low-risk category, the minimal risk category, we have the spam filters and the video games, in which the producers need to provide a code of conduct on how the users can be protected. And for this particular category, there is the Digital Services Act that also provides more details on how this code of conduct needs to be expressed or defined. Finishing the legislation part, because people might think that I'm a lawyer, I'd like to mention this, the New York City bias law, which is my favorite law so far. First, because it's the first law ever that is already operational. It has been operationalized since the 5th of July, 2023. But I have to note here that this particular legislation has been, let's say, postponed. The enforcement was postponed two times because there was lots of discussions from the HR software vendors. So what this law suggests is that if, let's say, you are an employer in the city of New York and utilizing software that scans CVs and rates them, that gives employees a rating, or predicts who is going to leave the company or not, these kind of systems, they need to be tested for bias. There is a certain formula that the legislator defines, and independent auditors, companies who are not building AI systems or are not utilizing AI systems, that's the definition of the independent auditor according to NYC bias law, is they need to pass this test and also publish the report on their website. The interesting thing is that there are no so many HR software companies or employers that have posted this kind of report in their websites. I think that shows us that the adoption of the legislation will take some time. Now, we saw what we can do as let's say, humankind to legislate around AI systems. Now, let's see what we, I include myself, the engineers can do, how we can do to help and do our bid. Testing can only prove the presence of bugs, not their absence. This is Dijkstra's proverb. Sorry, that's the previous version of my presentation, so some things are missing. Testing an AI system. What is different compared to, let's say, a typical software system? So a good example of that is that if you are in a bank, you have, let's say, your web banking platform, which we all know how you can test it, but you also have in your, let's say, finance department, you have some credit scoring algorithms, which they don't have so much code, but they utilize more data. So the main difference is that for the first system, you need lots and lots of code. it can be millions of lines of code. Trust me, we've seen that, we know it. But let's say for the credit risk, you need way less code, but it utilizes more data, and the decisions that this system makes are more important. So let's say if your web banking system goes down for let's say, a couple of hours or for a day, it will create disruption. It will create problems in your daily lives, especially if you want to pay your bills on the deadline, or if you want to pay your employees. But the frustration is going to be quite temporary, and the disruption is going to be contained. Imagine if you have a credit risk scoring algorithm that collects data, and all of a sudden it decides not to give credit to women or to people of color or whatever. You see that the gravity of decisions is way more important. A couple of years ago, I had a discussion with a software engineer friend of mine who is working for an AI company, let's say, and what he told me is that nowadays, with the deep learning model, at that time we didn't have, let's say, ChatGPT and LLMs. We were talking only about deep learning. That was the trend of the day. You need, let's say, the 1/10 of the code that you would need it like 10 or 15 years ago to build an AI system. And this 1/10 of the code that you need, it will be used for doing the plumbing, not something else. So the difference is from an AI system, it has less code, it utilizes more data, and its behavior, it's non-deterministic, which means that the outcome can have multiple, there can be multiple versions of, let's say, the final outcome. So how we can test those systems? And how can we test those systems if we also factor that in, the dependencies that we have between people, process, and technology within an organization. So I guess this is a common, let's say, graph that, let's say, at least in my university, the Athens University of Economics and Business, we have discussed with our professors there, is that this pyramid within an organization. So imagine that the effect that the values, the culture, and the ethics of the organization will have to the people of the organization. And those people, they need to implement, they need to engrave them, they need to integrate them into the business processes of that organization. And those processes, they need to be implemented and reflected in the technology. So imagine how important this is for an AI system which is more dependent on the data it utilizes. And I will remind you about the Conway's law, which suggests that the communication structures and the ethics of the organization affect the systems they build. A good example here is that if, let's say, as an organization, I want to have privacy let's say I'm Apple, and says I'm really pro-privacy. I will try to build privacy in every aspect of my systems. Then this has been defined in certain business processes, and this has been implemented in our mobiles or in the Mac OS or iOS, and we can see also, and a good example was also this litigation that they were having with the US government a couple of years ago. They didn't want to open their iOS, and the US government couldn't actually break the algorithm, which means that actually Apple was sticking to what they believed as a company, and that was also reflected in the technology that they were building. So there is an ISO standard then on how we can test AI systems. There is with our team at Code for Thought, especially on our software quality business, we use extensively the ISO 25010, which is the ISO standard for software product quality. Now there is, and usually in that practice, we see that, let's say, companies pay more attention, or clients at least pay more attention to maintainability, security, reliability, and the performance of their system. That's why you see those boxes highlighted with the green color. But for the AI system product quality, there is a very distinct, there is a difference. We see that characteristics such as functional suitability, usability, reliability, and security are more important. And the main additions in this 2559 compared to the 25010 is that for functional suitability, we have characteristics such as functional adaptability and correctness, which is how easy is for my mode system to adapt in changing conditions and situations. So let's say a good example is the COVID situation. So lots of AI systems, when the COVID started, were losing their performance was deteriorating because all our habits have changed drastically and dramatically overnight, let's just say. Requirements such of user controllability and transparency. So if I am a user, I need to stop a system if it doesn't do what it's supposed to and harms people or whatever. Also, I need to understand the decision it makes. All these things have been defined in this ISO standard and are going, I hope, to make our life a little bit easier when we need to test an AI system. But you can see that the testing here is not only technical. It takes into account, let's say, the behavior of the system, so it's more dynamic. And for those asking, okay, where are the words like fairness, accountability, transparency, explainability, all those characteristics are being defined in another chapter of this particular standard, the quality in use. And there we can see two new, actually we see this characteristic, the freedom from risk, which was not existent in the past for, let's say, traditional software systems. So as we can see, the whole way for testing an AI system compared to, let's say, the typical the software systems that we know is changing and is changing substantially. Now, to give a little story on how we helped a company in the Netherlands some years ago, the CEO of a computer vision startup called us and said, well, we have this fall detection algorithm that we use in care homes for elderly people. This is considered a medical health product, so it's high risk. So we would like to see how we can help us show the trustworthiness of our, or the quality of our algorithm, because we get questions from our clients and from our investors. So at that time, we said we defined a series of requirements. So is the system fair? Is it transparent? Is it safe and secure? And by running, let's say, our analysis and by doing a data preparation, here the magic word is the data preparation. Because one thing that we and our client understood was that our client wasn't ready for being audited, because there was no data that we could examine and say if the system is biased or not. Because in the data they were using, they were not having, let's say, it was image data they were using. They were not labels about the sex or let's say the origin of let's say the color or the origin of the patients. So we had to wait for them to prepare the data and then start the analysis. Thankfully, it proved that the system, or for the given data set, and that's very important, could be trusted. This led to this nice case study, this nice press release that everything is fine and we're happy and we're proud. But as I said, we just tested this system for this particular data set. And this is a tricky thing with AI systems, because we need to understand that this is a false sense of assurance. And of course, there are tools out there that we can monitor the behavior of an AI system in a more continuous way, but still we will be missing information. So the most important thing is to build and embed the trustworthiness on an organization and cultivate a culture of quality in our people, in our processes, and our technology. Also, the new technologies like AI, be it generative AI or whatever, they bring new risks on the table, and we need to cater for their mitigation. And as I said, not just at the technical level, but at the process level and at the people level. And finally, so I started from right to left, it takes a village to test properly an AI system. So from our experience, you need to talk to lawyers, you need to talk to the business people utilizing the system, you need to talk to the engineers who build the system in order, let's say, to create a complete picture of how a system operates, about its quality, and about the quality of the data and the maturity of the organization that utilizes it. That's it from me. I hope I didn't bore you, and yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was very, very interesting. I would like to ask you something about, you mentioned there were some implications in developers that were writing on AI due to COVID, something like that?
No, it was like when the COVID started, all the, let's say if you are a recommendation system for a website, right? Your website was having a traffic of X before COVID. After COVID, that everything would need to be remotely, the traffic and the data consumption and data collection went 10 times more or 100 times more, which means that the nature of your data and the quantity of your data changed, which means that the decisions of your recommendation algorithms were affected, and somebody had to, let's say, see if let's say, the algorithm was continuing working correctly for this new behavior of data or not. So that was the case, yeah.
Okay, so let's see if we have any questions. Yes. The first question, can you imagine a high-risk AI application in the domain of software engineering? For example, would maintaining a foundation model and using it to generate code for safety-critical systems be high risk according to European Union AI Act?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can't. It's too dangerous, I would say. I mean, it needs lots of guardrails to do that. One thing about generating code for, let's say, an LLM, it creates a series of risks. So where was this code was trained? Who is supervising the generated code and allows it to go to production? So it's not like impossible, but you need to have a series of guardrails in order to be able to trust the code that an LLM will generate for you to take and implement it.
Okay, okay.
So a high-risk application could not be managed actually or completely by an AI. Okay, can we have the second one?
Okay.
So also...
Yes. Can I...
Sure, for sure. So can be non-deterministic, the AI systems, and they are already being tested today. Is there any difference in the non-deterministic originating in AI?
Usually, the non-deterministic systems that we've seen in our practice, they are, let's say, rule-based systems, where lots of rules are embedded in the source code, which means you can actually be able to understand how the outcome was made. But let's say if I use a deep learning model, where there are thousands or millions of layers for a given decision, then you can understand that this is a way different ballgame.
Much more difficult
Yes.
to determine the outcome, actually. Which principles should an AI engineer follow to train and implement a trusted AI system? Actually, your opinion on that.
Okay. I would say that the first thing that an AI engineer needs is the quality of the data they will be utilizing for training and for testing their model. That is, let's say, a very essential thing. The other is to select the right technology for solving a business problem. So even before you even start designing the system, you need to understand what will be its purpose and what will be the affected stakeholders, and then make sure that you gather all their opinions before you start. But I would say principles like fairness or quality of the data or the safety of the system and the security of the system are quite important. There is lots of commonalities with a typical software system. It's just the data situation that makes it more, let's say, the handling of the data is the paramount importance here.
But what I get from that is more technical details than ethical details. There are ethical details, but
you will start with ethical details, but I mean there is a good mix of those.
Okay.
In what we see and what, let's say, other experts say is that first you need to define your ethics as an organization. So the ethics definition is not the responsibility of the engineer. Mm-hmm. It's the responsibility of the organization that needs to communicate that to engineer and allow him to practice it and implement it. Okay. As I said, as an organization, I'm in favor of privacy. How do I give the ability to my engineers to implement it in the right way. That's the...
I see your point, I see your point.
But is there a new age employee kind of type, some hot skill that needs to have its employee in order to be into AI more?
Oh, well, I think we're already there. We're already here in this situation that we need, let's say, AI testers. We may need, if there are AI ethicists, I mean, there is a new wave of professions that are coming out. I mean, if you look for AI tester or AI consultant or, let's say, AI ethicist on LinkedIn, then you will get, let's say, lists of names of people who actually do that.
You found engineers here in Greece?
No, I mean, in general. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not a very hot topic right now.
It starts...
this skill set, let's say.
This skill set will, it starts, also the Greek organizations will explore the possibility of adopting AI in their process. So I think that we'll see more and more about that within the next 2 or 3 years. And I think ChatGPT helped a lot. Because now everybody thinks that AI is ChatGPT, which makes the life of everyone more easier.
It's much more accessible also.
So we would like to thank you very much for coming here.
Thank you very much. Yes.
It's been our pleasure again.
Thank you.